Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. Thanks for being with us this morning. We're continuing another episode of our Let's Talk series, how to manage mental health during a global pandemic. I've got some friends that you may have seen on other videos that we've done here from the Academic Support Center. They are awesome folks. I'm glad to have them join us today. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, anything you want to say about yourself, what your role is, and then we'll jump into it. So I'll turn it over to you guys for a moment.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Catherine Decker, the Director of the Academic Support Center here on the New Bern campus.
I'm Dustin Pierce. I'm an academic success coach.
I'm Melissa Shoup. I'm the Academic Support Specialist with the Academic Success Coaches.
I'm Michelle Moran. I'm an academic success coach.
Well, I expect a lot of success out of this little bit of time coming out of here because we're all equipped, entitled with success. So that is awesome. All right. So we want to talk about, you guys do so many things for our students. It's amazing what you do. And we'll specifically talk about goals today. And we'll kind of set this up with talking about ourselves for a moment. And when 2 years ago, about roughly, that the global pandemic started with COVID and things shutting down, we had to adjust goals that we may have had. And so I guess one of the first things that I'll share, then you guys can kind of share what you had to adjust in your own lives the past couple of years, or at least, the first year that we were kind of in the thick of it. But I remember when things shut down, I was like, okay, now it's time for me to start a project that was not on my goal list. It's like, okay, I'm going to have perhaps a little more time because I'm not going to be going many places, it sounds like. So I'm going to take a goal that I had shoved on the back burner, and I brought it to the front burner because I was going to have more time, and that was to repair a section of my dock by the pond that we have. So I was like, okay, what can I do efficiently with this extra time that I'm probably going to have? And so my goals got adjusted in that way. What was anything that you guys had to either put off, put to the back burner, or bring from the back burner to the front?
Certainly. Well, I know I had to put off traveling, some self-care acts, goals that I had the past 2 years, and I kind of set some goals around my house for little home improvement projects since that was about the only thing I could do. Painting was one. Anybody else?
I know for me, setting personal goals has always been a struggle. So it was mostly just finding new hobbies, something to keep me sane with all of the new time that I had.
So Dustin, I'm going to dig a little deeper on you, man. So what new hobby have you picked up that you have absolutely fallen in love with and you're going to keep in your lifestyle?
Well, I've always been a bit artsy, and I transitioned from pen and paper and pencil and paper to painting miniatures. So it's a bit of an expensive hobby. It was a bad one to pick. Takes up a lot more space than something with mini in the name would suggest, but just painting little plastic figurines.
Nice.
Oh, wow. That's surprising to hear that. So expensive to paint this much.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of similar before the pandemic. I don't think I really set as many goals as I probably would have liked to. And once that pandemic started, it kind of kicked me into figuring out some goals. I really had to change a lot. I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I decided that, I had to make a change for my daughter and I. So we actually moved to Colorado to kind of get situated. And same with Dustin, I kind of just worked on my personal hobbies. Like I like painting as well, and making garments. I made some dresses for my kid. But that's when I started thinking, well, I better have some sort of 5-year plan, 10-year plan, some larger goals. Where am I going to be when this all comes back to normal? And that's basically how I ended up here and working at this college. And I think it was actually a blessing for me because otherwise I would have been stuck in the same old environment that I was just doing automatically, waking up and doing the same schedule every day, not thinking about what's next. So I appreciated that time of reflection. It made me realize what is actually going to improve myself.
Wow, that was a circuitous journey from Ohio to Colorado to North Carolina. Right. My oldest daughter moved out to Colorado last year, Colorado Springs. So we went out last summer and visited. Beautiful place out there. Absolutely.
But yeah, that place is
Love
beautiful.
Colorado.
My goodness. I was in Greeley, so a lot of the plain type of environment. You had to drive about 40 minutes to get to the mountains, but we definitely drove to the mountains often to do some hiking because, again, when you're so depressed with being stuck inside, it's really important to get out there. The exercise helps, the fresh air helps. You need that vitamin D from the sun, so it's a nice place to spend quarantine for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For me, it kind of got interesting because both my daughters were home. I had a senior in high school and a freshman in high school at the time, so it was really interesting when COVID hit. They were back at home, which I didn't mind because of their age. I feel like I don't get to spend a lot of good quality time with them, so that was actually really nice having them home. And then I'm so used to my youngest daughter is always in hospital. She has 16 doctors and we're always in hospitals constantly. So for me during that time, it was really interesting having to set new goals because they weren't allowing her into the doctor's offices for risk of getting sick, and for her it would be really dangerous. So they sent us all kinds of like blood pressure cuffs, pulse rate, oxygen tank, and we had like a routine of goals we had to set each day for what she needed to do instead of going into the doctor. And we would have Zoom meetings with her doctors and her nurses on a daily basis. So we had to set a new schedule. And so that was definitely really interesting. I would rather the doctors do it than me do it. But we did good adjusting to that. And then we created goals where we would make sure, we went hiking or went for walks. So we kind of got a lot more involved with nature than we usually are used to since we're in hospitals so much. So I felt like that was really nice. We would start saying like different days of the week, we would go do something outside in nature. And that was just really nice for us to be able to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, as you said, all of you said, it takes a time of a pause to do some reflection, to do some assessment, and then really look at the resources and everything around to say, okay, what are we going to do to manage it this time? So, as I think about some of the changes that our students, and we'll shift the thought to the students that we work with. Of course, we have a diverse population of students that we work with. One of the things I noticed as far as goals that they had to adjust, and you can speak to this with who you work with, but because of the fact that if you had children and they were at home, there was a lot of adjusting to go there. Work schedules. Some people lost work. Some people took up more work to fill in gaps because there was a demand for certain types of jobs. And so we at a community college, we kind of advertise, it's a 2-year degree, but oftentimes we know it's not 2 years. It takes a little longer when you're managing so many things. But folks who had some goals set on when they were going to complete their degree programs, that kind of had to be expanded. In other words, students that typically would want to take, if not full-time, at least 3/4 time classes, had to kind of dial it back a little bit and not take as many classes just because of all the adjustments they were trying to make and not be overwhelmed in their lives. Did you guys see any of that in students that you were working with? And then, what were any other things that you were seeing that students were having to adjust to?
You want to share your story about students you spoke with?
With current students or students from like back when COVID hit 2 years ago?
Yeah, kind of when it first started, and then where we're at now. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, definitely for our team, it's kind of interesting because we're all new to the department.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely.
So, but I can say that with the students coming in now, I know we've all realized that it's interesting. Students are having a hard time with communication from being isolated. We've also seen a lot more anxiety issues from being isolated. They're having a hard time getting back into being around groups of students. Most of them we have to work with, talking to them about it's okay to work with groups. You're going to get past this. You'll get more comfortable with it. I know I have staff students who are really struggling with that say they don't like working with groups anymore. And it's just, they got so used to being isolated, it's hard to come back out of that. So I know for us as a team, we're all working on ideas and creating new plans for how to help students be more comfortable, help with anxiety. Anxiety issues seem at an all-time high. Just with the stress of life, so many students are taking on new roles. Whereas before it was fine, they were doing fine in life, and then a parent got sick and there's repercussions to that. So they're having to move back home, help take care of the family as well. So we've seen a lot of different role changes with students as well. So it's definitely a work in progress, trying to work with the new normal with COVID and trying to help our students learn how to cope with it, and a lot more trauma, grief, anxiety, things that are going on because of what COVID has done in each individual's family. So trying to come up with ideas to help them.
Well, and I think, we might not have been here for that time period, but we are looking into these profiles of students and just kind of seeing what happened, how did they get here, and you see how it affected a lot of people's GPAs because you quickly switched to an online environment, and there's so many students where that is not as successful for them as others. They need that interaction, they need that back and forth. So those students that struggled really had to come back and start from ground zero, because you go through that scenario and you fail all your classes. That really hurts your confidence level and your mental state, thinking that you can or cannot do something. So here they are coming back, trying it again, and they're hesitant because they feel like, I wasn't able to accomplish those classes online before. I don't think I can take them now. And they are taking less classes. Some of them try to pile on, and then they realize how that's affecting them and that's not actually benefiting them. So we try to encourage students that you don't have to rush this. You want to make sure that you're successful. In order to be successful, you need to manage your time a lot more wisely. Don't take as many classes, because now everyone has to work. They've got to make up for the losses that they had throughout those 2 years. So it's such a normal thing for students, and it's becoming more of a suggestion instead of trying to encourage people to get it done faster and take more classes. We're saying reflect on your schedule, look at what you can and cannot do, because a failure affects more than just your GPA. Your mental state gets stuck in a mind frame of, I cannot do it. And we're here to say, yes, you can.
Yeah. And COVID really caused, the pandemic caused everybody to have a time of uncertainty. And that uncertainty, caused everybody to maybe feel a little bit anxious, depressed, lonely. And that really had a negative impact on motivation to meet their goals that they have, set or planned to work towards.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I hear you saying is there've been waves and levels of the pandemic, and that first year it was, yes, let's hit the pause button, let's do some assessment, reflection, and things like that. And now, as we're kind of coming out of the global pandemic, at least, we're still seeing the repercussions, though, of what the last 2 years have done, as you said, changing roles for certain people, the social isolation, and so now we're adjusting to lots of different things as we're coming back out. And yes, anything that creates uncertainty, certainly our anxiety levels go up, because how do you prepare for uncertainty? And so it's a threat. I'm not in control of that, and when we're not in control of things, obviously we feel that sense of insecurity and anxiety. So with setting goals then, and we'll come back to how we can manage some of that anxiety, right? And as you're working with students who are still balancing oftentimes their families, and oftentimes whether it's part-time work or even full-time work. And then the addition of academics and taking a couple classes or even more, or depending on the semester. So what is the importance then of setting goals? How does that ground us in a sense and give back some of that control maybe that we're talking about? Tell us the importance of why do we need to set goals, and how is it beneficial?
It's beneficial for our own sense of accomplishment. And it also shows us the progression into that major goal of your ultimate, where are you going to be in 10, 15 years? But you can make those long-term goals, but in order to get there, you have to set short-term goals, and you have to congratulate yourself when you accomplish something. And it starts from your everyday activities, such as doing your laundry and, putting it away. We look at that like a chore, but look at it like a goal. And then when you accomplish it, you get that sense, that positive feeling to yourself, that self-worth that we are a lot of times lacking. And you need to set small goals in order to go to that big goal. And that goes from your daily chores at home to your homework, setting those goals on, I'm going to finish this paper a few days before the due date, and call it a goal. And when you do achieve it, congratulate yourself. It's very important. And I don't think students do that enough, as they reward themselves for accomplishing something that might be mundane to them, but it still matters. And it will elevate yourself and your self-worth.
And I think goals help us understand where we need to focus our efforts so we can maximize our time and energy, especially for students that are trying to balance work, school. Maybe they have 2 jobs, they have children. That keeps us on the right path. We know where we're going and we know where we want to end up at.
I know we've also talked about lately that mental health that overflows into your academics. So a big goal we've been all discussing, and I know with a lot of my SAP students that are dealing with depression and anxiety, a lot of it is setting goals for their mental health, and then that is empowering them through their academics.
Yeah.
So a lot of it right now is getting them back to feeling that self-worth, to feeling confident, to feeling okay within themselves, and it's overflowing in a positive way instead in their academics versus a negative reaction.
And it helps if you make a goal, to have it visualize, put it where you can see it, keep it visual. That way you keep your focus on it and you can see it each day. And it's a reminder to keep working hard towards that goal.
So one of the things that I recognize for when our schedules get disrupted, and obviously, COVID disrupted everybody's routines and schedules, and we really perhaps don't understand or don't recognize how important feeling like you have a sense of routine, a sense of schedule. When people experience loss, and now we're not talking just about COVID, but when there's a death in the family, we get out of our routines because you got to deal with all the things that come along when there's a loss in the family, and preparations and viewings and funerals and just a ton of different things. You got family and visitors coming in, and everything's just kind of disrupted. And sometimes it's just nice after a period of that to kind of get back into routine again, so that we can accomplish those, just again, not mundane necessarily, but just the little things that help keep us on track and give us a sense of purpose, but as you say, also accomplishment. And I think we can't overemphasize enough the need to celebrate when we do accomplish things. One of the examples that I have is when you're working with people, you don't often see immediate success or immediate accomplishment. It takes a while, and of course, as humans, we like immediate gratification. We like to see kind of an immediate, oh, this is good, it's going in the right direction, it's positive, we can celebrate. The one thing that I can do is when I mow my grass, man, when I'm done, I can sit back and say, boy, that looks good. Look what we've accomplished to the yard. It's just nice. Even celebrating the fresh cut lawn that's going to be every one of us is going to be dealing with pretty soon, is to stop and really just feel that sense of accomplishment and joy of this looks good and I'm happy with that. So very important. So as you're setting up goals with students and you're looking at the short-term goals, when is it, as you're helping them, when do we need to stop, review, and say, you know what, we may need to adjust the goal here? You know, again, that can be on the academic level, you know, whatever times we set aside for study or how we study, where we study, who we study with. When do we know that maybe we need to stop, reflect again, assess again, and maybe adjust goals? And is it okay to adjust our goals?
Yeah, certainly. I think you need to look at your goals and make adjustments along the way. You know, life is going to throw curveballs at times. Our skills and abilities are going to progress, and we need to look at our goal and make sure those align with ourselves. And also, are our goals realistic and relevant to our life?
Yeah, and we notice that the change in goals typically happens when some sort of change is going on outside of school. If you get a new job, if the schedule changes, perhaps you're having car trouble, and you know, so many things outside of the school realm will affect where your goals got to be. Okay, maybe I need to increase my time of studying from 2 days to 3. Maybe I need to adjust my schedule and find out where I'm most productive, because that will change as well. And it'll just happen throughout the semester when you look at your grades, when you're seeing one class is more difficult than the other. Well, now my goal has to change from my focus level on this subject versus that. Where are my outside resources, such as the tutoring center, the library? How often do I need to use them? I mean, we have to constantly adjust and look at our priorities throughout the semester, because we don't know how a class will go on the first day. It's going to take us a couple days to realize how much extra effort do I need to put in. You know, maybe you're taking a class that you know the information on, so you don't have to stress about that one. But then you're taking a biology course that requires a lot more reading, a lot more memorization of body parts and all that stuff. And you really need to look at your schedule, work with your time management skills in order to set the small goals to accomplish them on each individual assignment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a little esoteric here and talk about creating things, right? So Dustin, I definitely, with your, you know, your artsy contemplative moments when you're in the zone of art, you know, there's a process, I think, when we make thought turn into reality, when we make words turn into product, right? So do you kind of see yourselves really promoting that sense of, as students continue to verbalize, you know, what their goals are and to verbalize the resources that they will use, you know, to accomplish those goals. In other words, the more engaged that they get into what they're trying to achieve, do you actually kind of see the progress that they're making, not only through their grades, but also with kind of their sense of confidence and self-esteem?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think students, it's interesting, like now that we've been here because I know for me it's been like 6 months. That's in 6 months. You have a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I know, like, we're starting now having students from last semester and we're seeing them this semester. And some of them, you can definitely see the difference in confidence, the difference in how they're doing with the classes, the difference in time management. They're more vocal about what they need. They're more vocal about issues they're having outside of school so that you can better help them. Because our job is to support and help them and make sure we're getting them the resources they need. So I feel like we're constantly adjusting to what the student needs, depending on what's going on in that moment, in that time when they come to us and speak to us. So I feel like it's really almost fun and exciting to see the changes in some of the students as they're getting further in their education, how much they've changed, even just from last semester.
I know Dustin's been focusing a lot on numbers and Excel spreadsheets, so I'm sure you definitely can see some differences.
Yeah.
Not so much in the data right now because it's still relatively fresh and hard to see a lot of that growth, which does go into like our goals and not really seeing on paper our progress just yet. But we can feel it and see it on a per student basis. So
Mhm.
it's hard to see the changes that we're making most of the time, but we can feel
We
them.
feel it.
Yeah, definitely. We feel it.
That's the motivation.
Absolutely. And that's the energy that keeps the machine running, right? It's like, oh yes, wake up tomorrow and come back and do it again and just continue to grow in that type of positive energy is awesome. To be sure. So how, what do you see when students begin to struggle as the semester slogs on, right? We've hit the kind of the midterm at this point. I'm sure you've been working with students in their midterm exams and preparing for that and saying, okay, now, well, we still have the back half to go. What are some things that seem to help students with their motivation and management? What are they doing to dig deep and draw some of that energy out to continue on as they finish out the semester?
I I think some students they fear that failure and they might hesitate to turn something in until they think it's perfection. And that's kind of a mentality that we try to change, because what we are seeing is more and more students not turning in assignments on time. We call a lot of students because we're seeing that, hey, your grade's slipping because you fell behind. And usually it's because they hit a snag somewhere where they might not be confident in the information. They feel like they don't understand it, and they don't want to turn something in that's not 100%. Where you have to remind them that learning is a process, it's gradual. You're not going to get 100% every time, or else you wouldn't need to be here. You know, learning starts from ground zero and it works its way up. So you need to make sure you're still on pace, turning in those assignments and moving forward. If you start holding off because you don't think it's correct, then you see yourself getting behind. And now midterms are coming around and you have 2 weeks of work you need to catch up on. And that I don't think the student realizes how much that's hurting them. Whereas we would suggest that you do your best on the assignment at that point, turn it in and move on. Because we can learn new things from our mistakes, but if we don't put the mistakes out there, where are we moving forward from there?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, is that sometimes we fear making mistakes, and actually those are some of the best times that we can actually learn and grow and look at as, again, I don't want to say a failure, but when we don't achieve the mark that we wanted to, actually, as we assess it, we can actually, again, turn it into something more positive, because we can say, oh, this is an area that if I work on this area, that's going to help me not only here academically, but help me in other stages of, in places of my life. Because really, as we've talked about, when we talk managing stress, there's stress in academics, obviously, but there's also stress in raising families. There's also stress in jobs that we have, stress of making the ends meet financially, especially in the time that COVID brought us, and now into the next phase of from global pandemic to global war, and how that affects us economically. That we're always trying to refine ways that we can manage, the stresses that are around us. Your acronym is ASC, but really you guys need to be MHSC, and that's the Mental Health Support Center, Academic Support Center, because it totally is entwined. How we're dealing with things and how we're managing those stressors. So in your coaching and mentoring and supporting students, what are the things that you're seeing or that you're telling them as far as self-care? You know, what types of things are your students being able to incorporate into their daily routines, and as they manage their time? What are the self-care tips that you're giving folks?
I know a lot of mine, I encourage them to exercise. So we were talking about releasing endorphins, and they're feeling so depressed that it's kind of like you're forgetting the other stuff you can do for yourself that you don't even realize is so simple. And so several of them have said now it's that they make it a point, routine every single day before they start classes, before they come to campus. They at least give themselves like 30 minutes of exercising in some way. And all of them have said it's made a world of difference just having that before they're doing their assignments. I know rest is very important.
Yeah.
Teaching all of them to like get out of those bad habits of not having to go anywhere and just sleeping all the time, and creating better habits with sleep. And a lot of them, it's just better habits in general of making time management, organizing. They mentally feel better if they're scheduling a routine for their day and accomplishing it. So a lot of it's just simple things like that for self-care, of just making themselves feel like they have control again. Really, that's a big part of it that they didn't even realize was there, but it's something they can control. And so that definitely is helping with that self-care.
Yeah, I know I always say drink lots of water.
Yeah.
You know, exactly what my mom used to tell me, but it's true, especially living in Colorado, you realize that dehydration does affect you in so many ways, and keeping that routine. And then also, I like to tell them, focus on what you can change. A lot of us concern ourselves and create anxiety over issues that we cannot change. And you really need to focus on the stuff that you can change, because when you do, then again, you get that confidence boost, feeling of self-accomplishments, and you don't stress as much. But again, just do not focus on things that are outside of your control.
Yeah, again, I think that's so important as we help our students put things into perspective, right? Because if we look at that big picture and think, oh, you know, hey, we came out of, or we're coming out, we're towards the end of the global pandemic, and you know, we should be getting our economy back. Everything should be getting back to quote normal, whatever that means, and we can get back to similar things that we remember that 2 years ago that we were able to do. And now, you know, you've got the Russia, Ukraine, the world's response to all that, and how that's affecting gas prices and you know, the threat of nuclear possibilities. And if we start there, right, globally, and then we come down and say, oh my gosh, so how am I going to, you know, pay for the gas prices in the next month, and you know, things that it's going to go up in the grocery store, you know, it's already high. And so bread, milk, eggs, you know, the essentials, everything's going to go up. And then, oh my gosh, I've got 3 assignments due. I've got a paper due. I've got a test coming up. And oh my gosh, my kids, you know, they need new shoes for softball practice or soccer practice. And oh my gosh, I'm out of paint. So my hobby has to be put on hold because I have no paint. And so it gets so overwhelming if we start going down that path of again, wait, stop, take a pause, take a breath, drink some water, go take a walk, play with the dog or the cat, and bring it back to perspective to say, all right, I got to just stop, maybe not watch the news 5 hours a day to see all the horrible things that are out there that I can't control, and really focus on the moment and what can I do in the moment. And how can I organize myself in the moment? How can I set those small goals, not necessarily 5-10 years down the road, but in the next 24 to 48 hours of things that do need to get done, as simple as the laundry or unloading the dishwasher, which at my house, I'm it. And so how do I do all those little things? And I just think that perspective is so important. But we do have to remind not only ourselves, but our students and those around us to say, yeah, okay, let's just stop for that moment and kind of reboot, reset, and think about what we control. I just think that's so important. And I appreciate you sharing that message with the students that you're working with, because it's just so easy to get overwhelmed when we start thinking about all the things going on around us, from globally to just what needs to get done in a day's time, with all the responsibilities that we have. So we really talked about how setting goals then kind of does help us regain our focus, regain perspective, give us opportunities to get back some control. We know that we need to review and reevaluate sometimes to reset the realistic, resources that we have to finish things, or time resources that we have to complete things. But the positive things that result from that, as what you guys have said, is all the way from that sense of accomplishment, which psychologically gives us that boost of confidence and self-esteem, but also that response of endorphins, because anytime that you do have wins in your life, you get back that grade that's like, oh, sweet, I made an A on that, on that report, on that test, on that paper, and the endorphins get released for that too, just like taking that walk can help. And really just celebrate these little successes that we have along the way, and understanding that each day is going to bring its own challenges, and some days we're going to be able to celebrate the successes a little better, and other days it's just difficult to maybe find those successes. But that's why I think it's so important now that students are back on campus and can come to the Academic Support Center and have those relationships with you and the tutors, that it's that energy that's going to help us continue to just get through each day and get through the goals that we've set. So again, I want to say how important what you guys are doing is to our student population, and then those students go out into their lives, the people they work with, the families that they are living with, and they can help other people because you're giving them the tools and the skills that they can share with, it's a pay it forward type of a concept. But again, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. Anything else you guys want to say about, the Academic Support Center, and to students that may be listening, whether they're coming in or haven't come in yet? How do they get to you guys? What do they need to do to get connected with you guys?
Sure. They can come into the center. We are located in room 100 and building Ward Hall, the Newbern campus. And then there's also an Academic Support Center on the Havelock campus that's located in the red building. They can call us to schedule an appointment for tutoring, or they can also go on Panther Portal and schedule an appointment at either center, or if they would prefer an online tutoring session, they can schedule that there. We'll be glad to help either way. If they want to walk in, we will definitely help them and support them any way we can.
So even if it's online, right, the virtual tutoring, is that how, again, so we'll ask Dustin, all right, Mr. Spreadsheet guy, what's the percentages of students that are doing the virtual tutoring?
It's probably less than what is happening in person, just because it is a format that isn't, I would say, enjoyed on a lot of the students' part. There's a disconnect a lot of times that you just can't, there's an adaptability that's missing. Like in person, a student and tutor can react and respond to just body movement and cues. It's okay, you're telling me you're getting it, but your body language is telling me something different. We can kind of go over it a different way. You can't get that online, and it shows. So it's lesser, but still a decent chunk.
It still gives them an opportunity to connect, though, and I get it. It's hard to vibe off the energy when you're face to face and next to somebody, and it's different virtually. But it does, some folks are distance learners, right? They can't just drive to campus, whether it's Newbern or Havelock campus. But thank you so much for offering the virtual opportunity, because even though it's not as ideal as face to face, it still gives folks a chance to connect and actually interact and engage with another human being, and hear the words that you say to them, the words of encouragement that you give to them. And we underestimate the value of words and what words can do to calm, comfort, and inspire people. So thank you for offering the virtual tutoring as well, because it does give people the opportunity to connect. But yeah, you guys, please continue to take care of yourselves, take those walks, continue those hobbies, laugh, get outside, do all those types of things, because we appreciate what you do for our students. And we'll come back and do it again. I'd forgotten that all of you are relatively new, so we haven't had much time to collect a bunch of data and to evaluate that data and get it. So we'll have to do this again, so you can give us, some of those percentages of students that have benefited from engaging what you offer there at the Academic Support Center. But I know it makes a huge difference, and appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I would like to say that it starts is with a conversation. I think a lot of people get timid, and we're here to talk first. You come in, you see us, we talk, and then we will address any sort of issues that you have. But we're just here to talk with you. We'll help you out in whatever way we can.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And your guys' place over there is awesome too. I mean, your facility over there is beautiful and amazing and friendly and comforting. And I mean, you just want to go hang out over there. So, all right, guys, we'll stop our recording today. Thanks again. And let's just continue to take care of ourselves and everybody around us. So y'all have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.